What's up, guys? Frank here with metal's deadliest power couple, a duo who gives meaning to work ethic and the unstoppable force behind the band Entheos, who are releasing an incredible new album, Time Will Take Us All, this March. Cheney, Naveen, it's always great to see you guys.
Yeah, it's great to see you. Thanks for having us, Frank.
Yeah, how you doing, man?
I'm doing, man. I'm living the dream, just kind of bouncing around the world, in the sun, while everybody else is probably freezing up at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I follow your world travels. You know, it's funny. On New Year's Eve, you took a picture on a Hawaiian beach, right? Naveen's sister takes a picture on a Hawaiian beach. She had to be within 100 feet of you.
Yeah, it was the same
The
picture.
same picture.
Yeah.
No shit. That's awesome.
Yeah,
And we
it's
actually
crazy.
confirmed that it was the same location.
Yeah, it's insane how small the world is.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And I didn't realize, I'd never been to Hawaii before. The very first thing I did on the first day is I just walked down the beach and I hear Frank. And I'm like, what the fuck? And it was Ash from Revocation. He was just like, he was just walking down the beach. And as it turns out, like his folks were staying and they surprised his dad for his birthday or something. The world is tiny in certain ways for sure. Well, I know it's really early where you guys are. You probably just woke up. Is today a wake and bake kind of day?
Oh no, it's actually one here. We moved away from California, so we're in Nashville now. It's Central
Oh,
Time. Yeah.
wow. That's a big change. Nashville, I mean, that makes you guys part of that mass California exodus from California to Nashville then, huh?
That's right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess so. It's pretty common for people to ask where we're from, and we're like California, and they're like, "Oh, of course. Of course
That
you
kind
are."
of makes
Just
sense.
like everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. You know, to me, Nashville sort of reminds me of all of the best parts of LA as well as all of the best parts of Des Moines where I'm from because it's very friendly and it's still got like the entertainment industry aspect of it, but everyone is super nice and it's just a different vibe of human. It's really an awesome city.
Yeah, and so many other people that we know have moved here, and
Yeah.
or that we know a lot of people here. We know a lot of people that have moved here. We've met a lot of people who have moved here around the same time as us. So we've made a
Totally.
lot of friends, and it's been really cool in that regard. We actually live down the street from Mark Lewis, the metal engineer.
No
Yeah.
shit. Tell
Like
him
he
I said,
literally
what's up?
he lives less than a mile away. It's like our cross street, pretty much.
We also lived on the street from Stevie, the vocalist of Inferi. So there's a pretty popping metal scene in
Yeah,
Nashville. It's
it's really
pretty
cool.
awesome.
Wow. Yeah, I hadn't. I mean, I haven't been in a few years now, but fuck, that sounds awesome. And tell Mark I said hello. Love that dude. But we are here to talk about your new album, which is a fucking beast. And of course, it's your first since 2017, and a ton of shit has happened. To the world, to the band, to yourselves. Listening to the album, you can kind of hear that complexity and new elements in there and do you feel as though these life changes that you've gone through has played a role in that outcome of what Entheos sounds like today? Is this record an accurate snapshot of the last 5 years of your life?
I'd say so, yeah.
I agree.
I mean, it's hard to pinpoint certain things that have happened and say, oh, this sounds like this because this thing happened. I can't really say where music kind of comes from, but I think obviously it's some sort of expression of your life in one way or another. Um, I can't really
Absolutely.
say if it would have sounded different if things happened differently. Who knows? It's kind of a mystery in that way.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as like the lyrical content goes, I wrote a lot of it because I got in a pretty bad accident a couple of years ago. So, of course, that played a huge role in
Yeah.
how all of the lyrics and the vocals turned out. And I think it became that much more of an emotional record because of the things that I was going through. So, yeah, I mean, aside from the like obvious changes of us kind of downsizing the band and writing a record, really just the two of us. Evan came in and played bass on it, but we spent a lot of time just at our house hanging out
Yeah.
and writing the record.
I'd say
So
that's probably uh one of the biggest differences between making this and making the other records is I'm pretty much just did all the music and then Chaney always does the vocals on and the lyrics on her own, but we were able to really just take our time and let things sort of just unfold as they would naturally. And it led to something. I mean, that's kind of why the album is it sort of runs together like one big song. It is that way because we sort of started writing the first song, and then I just kind of didn't really stop and couldn't really find a point
That's
to end the song, and it just
Yeah.
kind of kept going. So
That's so funny because that is how it went. Naveen was like, I don't know what to do. This
Yeah,
song
how to
just
end
keeps
this thing.
going. So how do I end it?
yeah,
And
so
we just kind of were like, all right, let's roll it out until the very end and make it like a 42-minute long piece of music. So
yeah, it's definitely a journey. And I think that's the thing that I'm most proud about the album is it feels like a trip. Like when you listen to it, when it's over, you kind of feel like you experience something like like watching a movie or
yeah,
something like that, reading a book.
yeah, our aging.
Yeah,
Like after a trip,
feel older.
yeah, after a trip, you feel a little older,
Yeah.
a little wiser. So yeah,
I feel about
definitely.
40 minutes older every time I listen to your record. It's true.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's an amazing record. It really is, and congratulations again. I love it. I watched you guys as a fan. I've watched you both grow tremendously through social media. Really, like it's clear you take your craft very seriously, and you put it on video for the world to watch out there. And I know artists, who can get on stage every single day and play to hundreds of people, but would never post a video like you guys would, trying new exercising, trying new things. And do you ever feel like inviting the world to watch your craft in that way gets too vulnerable at points, or are you just comfortable at this point with, putting it all out there and being you and doing what you do?
Yeah. For me, I actually don't really share the experimentation or the parts of it that I would consider to be vulnerable. I did try to do like Twitch streaming for a while. And honestly, for me, that was too much of I don't really want people in there seeing how the sausage is made,
Right.
So with Instagram or making a quick like 1 minute clip or something, I can kind of just pick out something that I'm working on and say I'm willing to kind of show this,
Mhm.
and uh, it's really beneficial in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, for me, I feel like it's sort of easy to detach myself from those because I feel like you, I don't feel exceptionally vulnerable in those situations. It is interesting, having had some videos go viral. At first, it made me a little nervous because I didn't, you never know what the comments and everything are going to bring on. But over time, I've just let go of all of that stuff, and I don't really, it doesn't, yeah, it doesn't faze me much, honestly.
Yeah.
But I've enjoyed what it has invited, which is that a lot of our fans feel like friends to us, and it's very cool through those videos and through the podcast that we do, that we've been able to kind of form that relationship with people through the internet. It's hard to describe. It's been really cool to have that relationship with people.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have cultivated a community, of Entheos fans or just fans of what you do, and that's an awesome fucking thing to do. And as you mentioned, I mean, you even got the attention of Howie Mandel, and I don't know if you ever imagined like screaming into a microphone on a camera would get you, to something like that.
No, not at all. Definitely
Yeah, I mean,
not.
I got to brag for a sec. We found out the other day Drake follows the band now. The Drake. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's how
it's a
us
total
was like,
glitch in the
what
Matrix.
shit
Like,
does
what is
Shane
going on here?
copy? Yeah.
And I guess that's not trying to make me trying to brag. I'm bringing it up because since we decided, hey, let's let people in on stuff here and there. I mean, look where it's taken us.
Yeah.
Like you said at the beginning of the interview, we haven't even put out an album since 2017, but somehow we've managed to, I think, be a relevant band, and that's strictly through just releasing 1 minute clips here and there.
It
I mean,
really
that's
is.
literally it. We put out one song in like 2020.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the last one we put out.
And then of course with the pandemic and everything, I mean, a lot of people kind of just were like, okay, I'm going to wait for this to be over and then I'll go back to my thing. But that was really when Chaney and I kind of decided like, we're not making an album, we're not going on tour, we're not doing anything. We kind of don't have a band anymore. It's just her and me. We're like, let's just like start trying to make cool little videos and just put them out there and see what happens. And it's led to like more than I could ever imagine.
yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy.
My favorite podcast, Your Mom's House, found out about our TikTok videos and reposted it. And that to me was like, all right, it can't get any cooler from here.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely insane.
So everything, yeah, it's just been honestly a really cool experience putting those videos out. And we've learned to enjoy to do it as well. Like it's taught us a lot of things artistically. We've learned a lot of things about cameras and editing and lighting that we never would have known about had we not started doing these little 30-second playthrough videos. So it's been really fruitful in posting. Yeah,
it's practice and you can keep doing it, getting better. And now I feel like, I mean, we're at the point now where when we do make a full playthrough, or even if we wanted to make a music video, I'm convinced that we could do an okay job, you know, so make something that's presentable. Whereas 2 years ago, probably not the case.
Yeah.
Do you feel that like you're practicing more because you're trying to do those videos? Or are you just recording the practices that you were always doing and now we're getting to see them?
I go through full songs. Well, I don't know. I practice every day. Naveen, you practice a little less than I do.
Yeah, I'd say it's encouraged me to practice more.
Yeah.
You know, because you kind of get into the habit of wanting to post. Like I was trying to do one video a week for a while, and I did maintain that up until like 2 months ago. But in order to do that, yeah, you have to be working on music. Otherwise, it's just going to seem like you tried to come up with something just in order to post it, which is not how I want to be. I'm a musician. Let me post what I'm doing. So yeah, it is a factor in trying to keep up with getting better or learning new stuff or whatever.
You know, it has made you mix a lot more.
Yeah.
Like Naveen's mixing all of those videos that we put up. So I think that his mixes have improved greatly over the time that we've been putting those videos out.
Absolutely.
And I think it has made me just I practice my accuracy a lot more, because when you're in front of a camera, we only shoot those videos one time. So if I'm doing a full playthrough all the way through, I have to be happy with my entire performance. So it has made me pay a lot more attention to those things. And it's made me a better live performer as well in that way. So it's been great. I love it.
Well, I love that pretty soon Naveen's not even going to need Mark Lewis anymore. So
that's the goal.
Yeah, we talk about it. We're going to need him to borrow his stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah, I do borrow stuff from him a lot. No, we'll see. I mean, hey, well, whatever. It's like Mark is amazing.
And that's all that he does, you know. That's the difference, I think, between those things, is that Mark is just paying attention to doing that 100% of the time. So his mixes are super perfected.
Yeah, I think combining forces, if anything, would be
I think that would be cool for them to do like a dual engineering thing on the next record or EP.
I mean, it's amazing that you could get to that place, you know, out of a necessity, really. You know, this album does feature the two of you, something I was already comfortable with, you know, after you graciously took part in my Slay at Home series during the pandemic. But at what point did you say, fuck it, you know, we're not gonna mess with another player or even attempt to get people involved, we're just gonna do this on our own?
It's kind of natural. I mean, Travis kind of wanted to join Intervals, and it kind of made sense for him to do that. He fits that band really well.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a falling out with the guy who was playing bass with us. So I just think I've always played guitar and been somewhat of a force in writing our music. I like to write music. It's my favorite thing to do. So I think I just was doing what I always do. I had a ton of music and we just liked the way it was turning out. So we decided, hey, maybe for this album, I'll just go ahead and play guitar and just write the whole album.
And I'm a huge Fleshrot fan, which is Naveen's solo project that he did with Johnny Davey. And I was really into the idea of our material kind of going a little more in that direction. And because of that record and just, everything Naveen's done, it was super comfortable for us and obvious for us that would work. Yeah. It wasn't, and he's written a large majority of our music the entire time, or everything is kind of, people will contribute stuff and it's kind of run through the Naveen lens. So it was a mixture of people Travis joining intervals and 2020 hit, or the pandemic hit at the same exact time. So we were like, we don't really need to find live players at this moment. And we know that we can write music ourselves and that we could execute this in a way that we're super proud of. So let's just go for it and see where it takes us.
Yeah, it wasn't really like an experiment. It's like we knew that it would turn out the way we wanted it if it went down like that.
Yeah. There was a day in our kitchen where we had a conversation and we were just like, this is exactly where we want the band to go artistically, visually, musically, and we'll kind of flesh it out as we can. Yeah. So,
and then of course, like later on, pretty much a lot further down the road, when the album was pretty much almost done, we kind of reconnected with Evan, Evan Brewer, who's played on the other albums. And he just, I showed him the album and he just really liked it a lot. And I was like, dude, why don't you play on it? And then, so that's how that came about too. So that was like the cherry on top for sure.
Absolutely.
I think there's something to be said about, less cooks in the kitchen kind of deal. Yeah. Like, and I don't know if you feel that way, where it's just like, it was kind of like liberating to know that you didn't have to explain anything to anyone and you just did what you want to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, a huge amount of energy is taken up by trying to explain things to people. Mm-hmm. So
I think some bands or some musicians need that, but it sounds like you guys are doing just fine on your own,
Yeah, I mean, I've been writing music on my own for a really long time, so it just happens, and it happens really fast when it's just me.
That's true. Naveen writes a lot of stuff. Like right now, I think if we looked on your computer, we could probably dig up at least an EP or an album's worth of material. So it was just natural.
Yeah.
And Naveen, I know that you've been incredibly busy with session drumming the last couple of years. Do you feel that, all the different recordings that you've done, different styles, bringing in new elements and stuff, enhances what you do with Entheos?
Yeah, definitely. I think, honestly, doing that one album in 2018 with Mark and Whitechapel really changed things for me. Just because they sort of approach the music a little bit differently. And Mark, especially, like as a producer, he wants to make sure that everything is kind of serving the song rather than, because I'm like jazz hands on drums, I'm like, let me just do the craziest, most amount of fills possible. I'm not even listening to what Chaney's doing or, anyone else. So this time around, I mean, I still do all that, but I was just a little more aware of like, okay, what's Chaney going to be doing here? And even in the writing process, I'm like, let me write some parts where the vocals can kind of shine, or, subsequently, let me write some parts where the bass can shine or the drums or the guitar. So I think rather than just having it be everyone at the same time fighting for the spotlight, I tried to make it a little bit more focused in each section, not just doing stuff just because I can.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's not to say that the music is even more simple or anything, because it's probably more complex, but that was in my mind, I can assure you.
Yeah, it was. I could definitely tell a difference in Naveen's writing after he left that session, just because a lot of what Whitechapel writes is to serve Phil's vocals and to let vocals shine. And that taught Naveen a lot about,
Yeah.
you know, he had been playing with animals and doing solo stuff with Naveen Kane. He wasn't really thinking about vocals for a long
Yeah, no,
time.
just kind of let me see how much shit I can add to this with, and then it's like, oh, the vocals, all right. What do we
Forgot
do now?
about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I definitely learned a lot there. Like I would come in and do kind of whatever I would think is cool, you know, some jazz hands thing, and Mark would be like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. Let's try it just like straightforward and see how it sounds." And since it's not my band. They hired me to play drums. I'm not. It doesn't matter to me. However they want me to do it, I will do, no problem. So I think hearing it in certain contexts, you know, straightforward versus jazz hands, it was cool just for me to hear it and go like, okay, a lot of the times when he wanted to do something more simple, I agreed. I thought it sounded cooler.
Yeah.
Too.
Well, I've also noticed, Cheney, like you have grown, you know, from album to album. If you go back and listen to each album individually, you can hear how much you grow. And I don't know if that is from, you know, pushing yourself to make videos and practice so much. I mean, I know that you said you practice every day, and I think that also shows. Do you find it harder at this point in your life to do the growls or the singing?
No, not at all. I feel like it's getting way easier for me to scream over time. Like it's always easier. The more that we tour and the more that I'm practicing, it's just a pretty natural thing for me. You know, incorporating pitched, I've got some pitched screaming or pitched vocals, whatever people want to call it, on this record. So switching to those, I've had to practice a bit, but I feel like it's starting to all come together. Yeah, I've always intended on keeping my screaming voice my whole life. That's not something that I want to lose. I always aim to get better at using my voice in all of these ways. So I hope that continues for a long time, that I just feel like I'm getting better and that screaming's not going away. But
Yeah. And she's aware of doing it in a way that's not damaging and
totally.
these sort of things. I mean,
Mhm.
I've been in a lot of different bands and I've never seen a vocalist practice as much as I've never even seen one practice, but Janie actually practices every day. She's trying to get better. You know, she's constantly listening to different types of music and being like, oh, I want to try that type of vocal in what I do, and always trying to expand. And it's honestly amazing. I mean, she practices like way more than me, you know, and is always trying to get better. I'm just sliding by like, you know, just luck.
Dude, that is so fucking crazy to hear too, because you know, like I have this term behind your back, and I often refer to you as the musician that makes all other musicians want to stop. You know, I'm
Me?
yeah, you, dude. Like I've talked to Rob, you know, Flynn about this many times. It's a bunch of other people. I'm fortunate to know multi-instrumentalists, but it's so rare to know somebody that excels so hard in every instrument or everything that they touch, you know? And
That's true.
it's like, what the fuck, dude? You know?
I know, I'm always watching
you.
my back. Like, don't start practicing vocals. I don't want
Right.
to lose my job.
He's the
Jesus.
one-man
Thank
band.
you. Thank you. That's really, really nice.
What is the story of how you started, you know, instruments? Did you learn a bunch at the same time, or was it drums and then, you know, went down the line? You're like, oh, I'm bored. I'm just going to start picking up this one.
It's kind of circumstantial. Just I I started playing drums because my dad plays drums. So he's got good rhythm and he's sort of, you know, I guess I inherited those genetics.
His dad is an incredible mridanga player.
Which is like an Indian drum, and he plays the regular
Hand
drum set,
drummer.
and he can play like tablas too. Like any type of drums he can play.
Yeah, he's
So yeah, I kind of just inherited that from him. That's really lucky. And then I had a drum set, and I was, you know, younger, like 12. I think I was about 12, and I didn't want to bug my mom all the time, like by playing drums. You know, I was kind of I'm not like a normal teenager where I'm like, you know, fuck you, mom, I don't care, I'll play as long as I want. I wasn't really like that. I was more like, I didn't really want to disturb my mom. She worked at home, so I kind of was aware of that. So my neighbor had like a Fender Squier guitar, and I traded him like one of my cymbals and a stand for it. And then I figured, okay, I can just like play guitar and it's quieter. And then yeah, that's how it was. And then I just love music, so I would try to copy everybody that I listened to, but I couldn't figure out how to play their songs, so I would just make my own song.
It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, I had a lot of really good influences and stuff.
Yeah,
So
that's very, I mean, even he's constantly picking up new instruments. Like he started playing mridanga and getting into hand drums, and a few
Yeah,
years
Indian
ago it
drums
was
and
like
stuff.
Eurorack synths. So Naveen's like really the type of person who
spaz. It's just I'm a total spaz.
he
That's
says
it, really.
spaz, but he gets into a lot of things passionately for a while, and because of that, he like learns to play a ton of instruments really well. And it's that's inspiring to me that he's so into learning new things constantly and adding things to his repertoire. It's pretty
I mean,
awesome.
also people should know that I'm not like I can play guitar at it's more specific, you know, the things that I learn how to do. I sort of know what I want to do ahead of time, and then I figure out the easiest way to do that. I have a style of music that I hear in my head, and I'm trying to make that. So I don't actually care if I can, you know, go down to the local, you know, jazz night and like rip a solo off the top of my head. It doesn't matter to me.
Well, it sounds like you grew up with it. You know, music was always part of your family and part of your upbringing. Have you considered, or maybe you have, I don't know, having your dad part of what you do? You know, bringing him in on an Entheos.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
we probably should. He'd probably
Here's
love that.
this. He's gonna be like, he's gonna text us right away. I heard that I'm gonna be on an Entheos
Yeah,
song.
should. Yeah, that would be cool. I'm not opposed to that
That
whatsoever.
would actually be cool. He's a really good hand drummer. He's the type of guy who will see a band playing at a restaurant and he'll try to like sneak
Yeah,
it on hand
yeah,
drums.
definitely. There was a meme about that actually a while ago. That there was like this funny meme, and it was like a picture of someone's dad, and they were like, the band has no idea that I'm playing bongos in the band, and like my dad will do that. Has done it,
100%.
no problem.
Yeah,
I kind of
So-
love that. That's amazing.
that'd
Yeah.
be funny. Maybe we should do that. That's a good idea.
I think it would be really interesting to hear that kind of. I mean, you guys are branching out and doing more experimental stuff, and like, why not just go crazy, right? Cheney, no. So, what was your upbringing, and like, what was the catalyst that made you want to be a death metal vocalist?
Well, I always wanted to be a musician. That goes as far back as I can remember. My uncle was a bass player. My grandma was really into buying me instruments as a kid. My mom's she sings. She's really good at singing. So it was always a part of my life as well. All of that stuff. I had like a karaoke machine that I would track myself doing singing on, along to like My Heart Will Go On and stuff like that. And I was in swing choir in middle school. So I had, and a musical, I was a lead in Fiddler on the Roof. So I got into the metal scene in Des Moines in the early 2000s. You know, Slipknot had just blown up. So the metal scene in Des Moines was pretty, it was pretty popping off with new metal and death metal, all kinds of cool bands. And I got into the scene through that. And my real early inspirations on vocals were the guys in local bands who were screaming and up there playing, and they made me think that it was possible for me to get up there and do that as well. So I just got into metal really hard when I was a teenager and started doing vocals, and as the years progressed, got even more obsessed with it. So
Well, it's crazy to think that without Slipknot, there would be no Entheos today, but I love it.
yeah, you never know. It's
Never know.
crazy how all of those things, you don't know if they're a huge influence or not, but they become a part of the story along the way.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not knocking it. I fucking love Slipknot, and I think that was a really big moment for metal, you know, them coming out, and I'm sure you felt it being there firsthand.
One of my favorite Des Moines bands was one of the original guitar players of Slipknot, Donnie Steele, who was on Mate Feed Kill Repeat, formed this band called Kill Pact, and they were a really sick death metal band from Des Moines. And I was probably 17 or 18 when I started going to those guys' shows, and they really instilled the death metal thing into me. So yeah, it was awesome.
The album title, Time Will Take Us All, as you know, as well as some of the song titles and lyrics, they kind of paint a reminder of human life and the things that we take for granted, self-reflection. You mentioned that a lot of this came from an accident, that happened in your life. Generally, when you write lyrics, are you often looking inside, towards your own life for inspiration, or do you like look outwards towards the world and what's happening?
Well, it's a little bit of both. It's always looking inside and outwards at the world through my own scope. That's how I write lyrics. I wrote poetry a lot when I was a kid, and my lyrical content has sort of stemmed out of that. Um, it's really That's how I emotionally connect to the lyrics that I'm singing or screaming, is by talking about things that I'm going through and things that I've observed. And it's always coming from that point of view. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what the album is about. It's about self-reflection. Getting in that accident, it forced me to take a different look at my life, because it totally like obliterated my upper lip, and I couldn't move my lips for for a while. So I wasn't sure what my musical life would look like moving forward, and just my face in general. It kind of forced me to look at a lot of things that I hadn't really thought of before, I guess, or just in a different way. Because when something traumatic like that happens to you, it inevitably brings about those type of changes.
What was the first thought that was going through your head when that accident happened? Like when you came to, what was the first thought?
Just to get home, I had no idea that anything had happened to me until Naveen got home before me. We were on scooters, and when I got home, he was like crying, and I didn't know that anything was wrong with me. So I was like, what is going on? What's happening? And then I sat down, and it was all kind of surreal for the next like 24 hours until I went into surgery and figured out what was going on and got home. So yeah, it was just,
It's pretty serious.
yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
the photos. It looked gnarly, and yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry that happened.
It's a crappy thing, but a lot of good has come out of it. So I yeah, I just think that it happened for a reason. I mean, I was so grateful to be alive, so grateful for the people that I had around me, for Naveen, his mom, my family, and everyone who was very there for me and super supportive when it happened. So the immediate thing was really all of that, being so grateful, because I mean, if I would have landed in a different way, it could have gone like the whatever I hit could have gone straight into my brain, and all of the things that happened, you know. And in moments like that, you think about death a lot, or at least I did, and you start to cherish the time that you have.
Yeah, and you should. I mean, it's wild, but I do think you're right that maybe it happened for a reason, and if it's what brought you here now to this clarity and this album and this time, then it is what it is. It's a blessing in disguise kind of deal.
Yeah.
And of course, on top of all the things that you guys do, being social media stars, practicing 100 hours a day, creating amazing records, doing guest spots on on other albums, you managed to get together for your podcast, Copper Crab Podcast, which I've dipped into several times throughout the years, as I mentioned to you, Cheney, and it's always entertaining. And I wondered, what is that conversation like, that you wanted to start a podcast in the first place and keep it running for as long as it has been now?
I can't believe it's been
Yeah, I
running
know.
for as long as it has. I think this will be our third year this fall. Honestly, I wanted to start the podcast because I listened to Your Mom's House so much. And the dynamic is Tom Segura and Christina Pajitsky, and they're married, and they're both comedians, and they talk about their lives and what happens in their jobs and on the daily. And I was just like, I think it would be cool for Naveen and I to try out doing a podcast. And it took me a while to talk him into it, because he wanted on the tech side for everything to look really good, and
I'm like, well,
we
we
had to
can't do it
buy a
unless it
lot of
like
stuff.
looks unless it looks pro. I don't want to do it.
Exactly. We had to buy a lot of stuff in order to start. So it took me a while, but once we started doing it, I just can't believe, like I was talking about the community earlier, and we call our fans of the podcast, who are our friends really, are called the Golden Lobsters. And it's just been, I can't believe that they are there every Tuesday. They show
Yeah.
up on Twitch, and we get to have these
we added
amazing
that
conversations.
a couple months ago. We added so we do the podcast, and we used to just film it, just Chaney and I, and then we would put it on, all the streaming services and YouTube. But now we actually do the podcast live on Twitch, and we have a really cool guy who we met here in Nashville, who moved right around the same time as we did. His name is Harrison, and he actually comes over every Tuesday night and sort of helps us do it. Producer, I guess you could call him.
Yeah.
And so we have Harrison, and we have we're always like kind of engaging with, like what Chaney said, with the Golden Lobster community. And
I don't know
and
how
then
we've done it for that long straight. Sorry, I
What was that?
interrupted what you said. We've done it for a long time.
We did take a few month break, I think.
Toward the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, kind of. We decided not to do it, and we honestly started doing it again because of the people who were like, "Hey, we miss you guys doing the podcast." A lot of people would comment that to us, and we're like, "Well, maybe we should do it." And I think sometimes to Chaney and I, it seems kind of stupid, and like, it doesn't really feel like we're doing a whole lot. We're kind of just like sometimes we're just shooting the shit, or we're not really getting in deep with anything. But I think overall we've realized that it does help people in a way, because we are honest, and I think we both kind of pride ourselves on being honest, and we're not really trying to portray an image like we're big shots or like we've made it or whatever. Like Chaney and I have spent so much of our lives working and doing everything that we can to make this kind of esoteric music keep it going.
Yeah.
So I think we have some insight in that field, and we just try to bring that to people. But we don't want to just sit there and talk about that. We want to have it be fun as well. So it's not strictly educational.
Yeah, I think it's just been really cool to show people some of the inner workings of what it means to be in a band like ours. And some of the people who listen to the podcast are in places where no one that they know listens to metal. So
Yeah.
this is their group of metalheads that they can get together with every week and sort of talk about all the stuff that they're into. And that's been really cool to do as well.
Or maybe they don't know anybody who's ever been on tour.
Yeah.
I think we take a lot of people in the music scene who are not necessarily at the top, you could say, but let's say you're in the touring kind of circuit. Like for me and all of my close friends, we've totally taken for granted going on tour, playing shows where there's people there who want to see you, people who want to listen to your music, these type of things. But a lot of people don't have access to people like that. Maybe you live in the middle of nowhere somewhere, and you don't know just simply how people who do the touring and stuff, how they think about it. And I think instead of taking that for granted, we just talk casually about it, and we don't try to portray any type of image. Just whatever they want to make out of it is what they want to make out of it.
Yeah.
And we're happy to do so.
I imagine that, because you do it every week, and you have a commitment to it, and does your commitment to the podcast and your commitment to your music enhance one to the other?
Yeah, I would say so. The podcast has taught us a special kind of commitment because, like you mentioned earlier, we're both very spazzy people, and it's hard for us to get focused on the same thing. So the podcast has taught us the importance of being timely.
Yeah.
Every Tuesday, we've got to be here at 6:30 to talk to people. So it's taught us a lot of cool things like that. And I think that it works together with music for sure.
And being accountable with another person. I think if Chaney had started a podcast on her own, or I had started one on my own, I'm pretty sure it's safe to say there's no way it would still be going.
No,
because
no way.
There's usually every few weeks one of us doesn't want to do it, and we're like, hey, let's just take it off this week, and we'll go get some Mexican food and just chill. and the other person's like, all right, come on, let's just do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Luckily, it
let's just
lines
do
up
it.
like
Then we
that.
can get Mexican food.
There's
Yeah.
usually not a
Yeah.
time where both of us are the person who's not into it.
Yeah.
So luckily, it's
I
ended
mean, it
up that
happens
way.
every once in a while. To be fair, every once in a while we will slack off on it.
That's true.
It's kind of rare, but it maybe if sometimes we're just really hustling on something else, and we're just like, you know what, that's just a casualty. It's going down.
Yeah.
But it's pretty rare. We always, one of us will be like, let's just do it real quick.
Yeah. What else do you think that the podcast has, how the podcast and like our music lives have worked together?
Well, I mean, it definitely helps. Like you said, we have sort of like a more intimate community. Like there's people who like Entheos, right? But then there's the people who like Entheos and they like the podcast. So we're kind of in communication with these people quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
So we always say, I mean, this doesn't really pertain to the question, but I think it's something that's sort of interesting, is that if we release some limited edition shirt or if there's an announcement or anything like that, we tell them first. You know, so they get first access on all that kind of stuff before it even comes out. So I think in that way it's cool. You know, we'll think of that like, oh, we can tell the people on the podcast about this before we tell anybody else.
Yeah. I think it's just giving people a special inside look to our band and that side. And the last show that we played, we did a Christmas show with Whitechapel and I was selling our merch and I look off to the side of me and it's just a lineup of golden lobsters watching me do merch and all hanging out with each other.
Yeah.
And they've like cultivated their own community out of being a part of our community. And now they know about each other's bands and they're booking shows for each other and they're trying to plan meetups, where to meet up with each other on the road. And it's just,
it's amazing.
It's
I mean, it's
so
like,
incredible. I can't believe it.
And we actually got asked to do, there's a promoter in Knoxville named Lizzie. And she put on like an event, like a, I don't know what you call it, like a mixer event. And she had different people speak and she invited just everybody from the metal scene in Knoxville. And she had us come and we did a live podcast at this event. And I was so shocked at how well it went.
Yeah.
And there was tons of people there who didn't know who we were. And then there was also a bunch of people who are fans of the podcast, aka Golden Lobsters. And you know, we got to hang out with them in person and take pictures. And it was just like it's just really cool.
I think you guys really have figured out the new form of fan club. You know, like that's what I feel like.
What's funny about that and about the videos and pretty much everything we do, we're not really, that was never even a thought to me.
No,
it was never a thought. Oh, there's going to be all these cool people associated with the podcast or, oh, you know, Howie Mandel's going to make a video or so-and-so. We're just kind of doing it because it's like, hey, I would enjoy doing that. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And the results have been really cool. And I think without this preconceived expectation of what's going to happen, I think we'd be happy with it no matter what.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we never started a podcast with the intent of anyone listening to it.
Yeah,
it was just to put it up because it would have been cool to make one episode. Or the videos, we never thought that anyone was going to watch them. It's just something to put up because it's cool to play music and put it up on the internet. So any people who are into us because of that, that's just the absolute cherry on top. It's amazing.
Well, I think it's a testament to, you know, the powerful duo and camaraderie and attachment that you guys have. You know, like you work so fucking well together. I can't even imagine you guys apart now.
Thanks, Frank. You should do the podcast sometime. It would be awesome to have you on.
Awesome. Oh yeah, anytime. But seriously, I wish you guys all the best in everything that you do. You know, the work that you put in doesn't go unnoticed, and you know, your love for embracing the arts and the public is such a beautiful thing. Cheney, Naveen, thank you guys so much for killing time with me today. And everyone, be sure to pick up the new record, Time Will Take Us All, available everywhere March 3rd.
Yeah, pick it up.
There's already a couple singles out, or a few singles out.
Yeah.
You can check out if you haven't heard them yet.
Yep. Thanks for having us, Frank.